Hi everybody, this is Zane or Kamatazi, and I am on my operative, and I'm going to be going over the lethality spec for you guys today. I'll be going over some things to note under the discipline path. However, I'm not going over everything, so I highly recommend that you read over each and every single thing here. That way you have a better understanding of what the different changes is and for your abilities in here. You'll have a far better understanding of the class and potentially come up with your own rotation. I also will be going over the utility points that I have here. However, I do also recommend that you read over all of the different specs here. That way you are able to find a spec that best matches your playstyle. I'll be going over the basic rotation that I've set up down here for you guys. And at the end of the video, I'll be going over some player tips via the legacy screen. So to start off with, under skillful for utility points, I have chem resistant inlays, which increases damage reduction by 5%. I also have Imperial Weaponry, which Noxious Knives will deal 25% more damage. Under Masterful, I use Curbing Strategies, where Overload Shot and Noxious Knives reduce the move speed of targets they damage by 40% for 6 seconds. In addition, when Flashbang ends, it leaves behind Flash Powder that reduces the target's accuracy by 20% for 8 seconds. I also have Endorphin Rush, where Adrenaline Probe immediately restores 15 additional energy. As a side thing here, you can also get Med Shield, where your Shield Probe will heal you for 5% of your maximum health when it collapses as well. That's a good sub spec there. Under Heroic, I use Cunning Competencies, where Countermeasures will purge all movement pairing effects when activated. And when Sleep Dart wears off, the target is struck by sedatives, reducing all damage dealt by 50% for the next 10 seconds. I have also used Escape Plan, which will reduce the cooldown of Escape by 30 seconds, Shield Probe by 5 seconds, and Infiltrate by 60 seconds. If you don't like either one of those, you can do Imperial Tactics, which is up here, which will cost your Sever Tendon, will grant you a tactical advantage. Tactical advantage will be coming in very useful for all 3 of the specs as an operative. It allows you to use certain abilities, because there are certain abilities that requires the use of a tactical advantage to even activate. Under Legendary, I use Augmented Shields, which increases the amount of damage absorbed by your Shield Probe by 30%. And I also use Blow for Blow. Activating Evasion will return 150% of direct single target tech and force damage taken back to the attacker while Evasion is active. Another one you could use will be Revitalizers, where your Stim Boost will also grant Revitalizers, which restores 5% total health every 3 seconds and reduces damage received by 20% for the duration. So for things to note, your Toxic Haze will spread the Corrosive Dart effect on your target to other targets in the area. Shiv will cause your target to gain Susceptible for 45 seconds, which increases the target's intake of tech damage by 5%. And Shiv will also trigger fatality every 10 seconds, which corrosive assault will regrant tactical advantage and will have no energy cost. I believe that's the effect for proccing your corrosive assault will be able to occur every 10 seconds. That is what I believe that I meant to write down there. Corrosive grenade will make your target assailable for 45 seconds, which increases the element and internal damage that the target takes by 7%. Lethal strike will grant augmented toxins, which the crit chance and multiplier of damage and heal damage over time effects will be increased by 30%, and it will last for 6 seconds. So the basic rotation I have here will be starting off with Shiv, followed by Corrosive Grenade, followed by Corrosive Assault, followed by Lethal Strike, followed by Corrosive Dart, then Noxious Knives, followed by Toxic Haze, and then followed by Toxic Blast. To show you guys, as mentioned, Shiv, Corrosive Grenade, followed by Corrosive Assault, Lethal Strike, Corrosive Dart, Noxious Knives, Toxic Haze, then Toxic Blast, and then you just keep going through and a rotation and a circle. Anyway, that's the basics of this class here. Because as you notice, you'll be able to go through and then just go through again and again and again. I believe the main thing you'll need to focus on is both timing and potentially your energy control. However, if you have good timing and be able to go through at a steady pace, you shouldn't need to worry about your energy control, because as you notice, it recharges pretty quick. Now, under Legacy, which is going to be your Y ability, for character perks, I recommend for under Advancement to grab the different ones that you're going to focus on. So the PvPers who want to level up through the war zones, I recommend getting the first line here, which will be the war zone experience for improvement. I also recommend that you get the flashpoint experience if you're going to be focusing on flashpoints for those who are PvEers. For the questers, I highly recommend you get both class mission as well as exploration. These go beautifully hand in hand. Under travel, I recommend that you get the priority transport personal starship, especially if you're going to be leveling up through your class storyline. Because let's say you just finished the Planet Heroic and you're in the middle of nowhere, and your class storyline tells you they need to go to your personal starship in order to progress in this storyline. Well, instead of having to go to the nearest flight path and take the speeder over to the spaceport, you could just click on the personal starship ability and be ported directly to your personal starship inside your starship. I also recommend getting the side planets such as CZ198, and that's in case you do not know where they are on the galactic map, or you just simply keep forgetting where they are. you want to go to those planets and be able to do those heroic missions or do that flashpoint in person. Under convenience, eventually have all these maxed out. They're all very useful in their own way. However, for those who are leveling up an alt, I do recommend that you start off with a field repair droid. That way you are able to repair as well as sell at any given time, including after a difficult boss fight in the middle of an operation. I also recommend that you get the field respec. That way you do not have to go to the fleet to respec. You can respec at just about any given time and just about anywhere. You will not be able to respec in the middle of a war zone. I'm sorry, PvPers, that's just the way things are. You're stuck until you're out of that war zone in order to respec. The field respec comes in beautifully if you do not like the DPS role you're doing, or if you are in a tight spot where your healer drops off group. You could go from the DPS role, spec for the healer, and keep the group moving and keep everybody happy. Same thing for the tanks, such as the Juggernaut. If you happen to have the tank gear and you happen to be in DPS role and your tank drops group, you can put on your tank gear, use the field respec to switch to the tank role, be able to tank for the group, keep everybody moving, everybody's happy. Under Companion, I do recommend that you get the Legacy of Altruism maxed out. That way you get maximum companion influence from your companion gifts. And then go hand in hand with that, I also recommend that you get the Legacy of Promptness maxed out. That way you go from that 3 seconds timer for giving your gift to your companions, it goes from that 3 seconds down to roughly 1.6 seconds. Under Global, Unlock, and Other, I recommend this, in which that's having one of your characters maxed out or at least temporarily maxing out the light side alignment in order to get the Unity ability unlocked for all your characters. Downside for the Unity ability, you have to have your companion out with you. Bright side to the Unity ability, both you and your companion will have 50% damage reduction for 15 seconds when you use it. So you take half the damage for 15 seconds, and it will save your butt when you are in a tight spot, allowing your companion to potentially catch up in healing, or at least your healer, if you happen to be grouped with a healer. Under Convenience, I recommend maxing out the Legacy Fleet Pass, so that way your Fleet Pass ability will have 0 cooldown. Same thing for Legacy Travel. It will allow your quick travel to be, when you max it out, your quick travel ability, 0 cooldown. I also recommend maxing out the Priority Transport Personal Starship if you get the Personal Starship ability. For this will cause that ability to have 0 cooldown as well, and with all 3 of them, you're able to port around all day, and anybody grouped up with you try and keep up. That does have a cooldown on those abilities. They will struggle, and you will look better and more professional in the game. I also recommend that you get tactical markers. This is in case you happen to be the group leader for the operation or flashpoint. You can mark out where you want all the roles to be at, and hopefully that boss fight will go a lot smoother than chaotic. I also recommend getting improved mounting. This way you are able to mount while moving. I personally find this addicting. I personally love the ability because I do not like to stop for those 2 seconds to stop, mount, and then get moving again, as I have a tendency to keep pulling more ads. Anyway, that's all I have for you guys right now. Welcome to playing a Lethality Operative, and I wish you guys the best of luck.